Okay. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the Hampstead School Board Special Meeting of July 22nd, 2020. Before we get started, I have a statement to read regarding our Zoom meetings. As chair of the Hampstead School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate and contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen to this meeting by dialing the following phone number, 888-475-4499 or 877-853-5257. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom telephonetically. Instructions have also been provided on the district website at hampsteadschools.net. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please email hmstechnology@hampsteadschools.net. Adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Melissa, will you please call the roll, and board members, please state if you are alone in the room.
Megan Malcolm.
I'm here, I'm alone in this room. However, there's other people in the house.
Caitlin Parnell.
Here, I'm alone in the room. There are other people in the house.
David Smith.
I am alone in this room and I have other people in the house.
Jim Sweeney.
Hi, alone in this room, other members in the house. Thank you.
Karen Usenka.
Alone in this room, and there are other members in the house.
And Executive Consultant, Dr. Earl F. Metzler.
I am present. I'm here in my home office, and there are other members of my family in the house.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, first order of business tonight under current business, we want to talk about and set some dates for how we are going to do a public forum regarding SAU reorganization for our single district SAU, which will be live as of July 1st, 2021. So we've talked about this a little bit, board members, we kind of, knowing that we're still kind of doing things electronically. I know I had sort of put out there before the idea that we set a date to do an information session where we present what is being considered right now as far as the setup of our new SAU organization. Present that to the public, give them opportunities for feedback. Again, my thoughts were give them 3-4 days, whatever, to provide feedback via email. I think ideally maybe setting up a separate email for that rather than just email all the board members, but we can talk. And then to have a secondary Zoom where we address all of the questions, we read the comments, and go from there. That's my thoughts, but let's chat. If anyone has any other ideas, totally would love to hear them. And we can set a dates as well.
So Caitlin, I'm on board with that idea.
Okay.
Having an informational session and then a couple days later, answering the community's, providing feedback on their questions.
Okay. I mean, I think that's our best option right now. Anybody have any, like, no, I don't want to do that kind of thought? Okay, I'm seeing none, so let's set some dates. So I actually would like to bring Jeff and Dr. Metzler in on this conversation now as well, because you have both been helping a lot with giving us ideas and giving us ways to, you know, kind of research what we want to do for our SAU. So if you were to, I mean, we'd be looking to you to kind of set up, I'll call it a presentation of some sort to look to kind of address what our drafted plan is at this point. What time frame would you need? And I know things are busy right now. We need to acknowledge that, you know, we're trying to figure out what is happening with school and everything else. So what are your thoughts as far as timing on you being able to prepare something like that to be able to put out to the community?
Caitlin, if I could?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, first and foremost, I think we could present this to you yesterday. So we're,
Right.
you know, and I'm putting Jeff on the spot. So, you know, we've been working on this collectively for the good part of a year in anticipation of obviously two districts, you know, splitting off and having an efficient and effective way to provide services to both districts. So we'll be ready when you're ready. So you let us know, and we'll be ready to do that for you.
Okay, so if I'm looking, Jeff, sorry, I totally just didn't even check with you. Do you have any feedback on that, Jeff?
My sentiments are the same, and so I will just turn to you and ask what dates you had in mind.
Okay, so we know that we're looking at a board meeting the week of August 3rd, probably an actual date of the 4th for some hopefully final decisions on school in the fall. So I'd rather not have that be the same night. I don't want to combine those because I'd like to keep them separate. They're separate issues.
How about the 4th? How about the 4th and the 5th? We'll do the 4th for the reopening of, you know, for the self-learning. We can talk more about that. That's our next agenda item. And
Right,
then maybe the following night for the
for
reorganization.
like the first step of the,
Yep, stage one of the new SAU for Hampstead
Right.
schools, July 1, 2021. Stage one.
board members, any objections to the 5th for this first forum?
I'm here.
No. Not seeing
I'm
or hearing.
available.
Great.
Caitlin, I do have another public meeting to attend that night, unfortunately. I don't know if
Okay,
you're-
that's fine. That's what we need to, because we want you to be there. You're the numbers guy. So, because we'll need to talk about that as well. What about the 6th?
that should be fine.
Good for me.
Works.
Dr. Metzler, is the 6th okay for you?
Every night, any night works for me.
Okay, well, let's go with the 6th then. And then if we're looking at giving everyone, so we'll say the first, the informational session, we'll call it that, will be the 6th. I'm thinking we'll start at 7 o'clock. Just stick to our normal times. And then if we're gonna give people a few days to digest the information, get us questions and input and everything else. I'm actually on vacation the next week. However, since we're meeting virtually, I'll just zoom in from there. You know, assuming everything's still open and hasn't closed. So do we want to say the 11th or the 12th? The 11th is a Tuesday, the 12th is a Wednesday. Any preference?
I'd say the 12th, give a couple days just to collect feedback, see how we'll respond.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay. So what I think, so let's set our answer session for the 12th at 7 p.m. And additionally, I think we'll put this out during the informational session as well, but I think what we'll need to do is have a cutoff date or a cutoff time for, let's say, noon on the 11th,
Mhm.
for being able to, anything that comes in after that, it may need to be addressed like in an email or something, but that'll give all of us time to answer questions and be ready, so.
I would just propose that we might want to have a working meeting or something before that, just with us to discuss the questions, the answers, and, just make sure that we understand everything that we're saying.
Okay, so maybe at 6 o'clock on the 12th?
Sure.
I'm thinking an hour will be good. I mean, we know most of, we're pretty solid on what
Yeah.
this looks like and the research that we've done to get here, so. Okay,
Caitlin, can I ask a
Yeah.
question?
yes,
Do you want me to set up an email address
yes,
and so when that comes in, it goes to all of you type of thing?
yeah,
So I just created, the Hampstead Task Force email.
Yeah.
So do you want me to create something that says, how about you just send me what you want it to call it and then I'll create it?
okay, we'll figure out some creative email address to put down. Okay, perfect, Mike, we'll do that and get that to you.
SAU55@hampsteadschool.net.
I like it. I like
Hey,
it.
Mike, can you make that go live after the informational session? Because I think based on the
absolutely.
dozen or so people that wrote emails to us already,
Yep.
pretty much all their questions were duplicated. So I think knowing what questions were already asked and the information that we're going to give on the informational session, many people's questions will be answered that night.
Yep. We'll pass out that email address that evening then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great idea,
We'll post
Jeff.
it that evening.
Thank you. Okay, anything else on this? Because I think we're pretty good. We're going to be saying an informational session, and obviously we will notice all of this and get Zoom links out, but we'll have an informational session on August 6th. What did I say that was? Sorry, Thursday, August 6th at 7 p.m. We will give out information that night as well as an email address that people can send input and questions to. We'll finalize all this for the informational session, but we'll say likely that we're going to cut off email responses that we will reply to in the question and answer session by noon on the 11th. And then the follow-up question answer session will be Wednesday, August 12th at 7 p.m. And we'll go from there. Okay, perfect. If we have nothing else on that, we'll move along. Okay, next up, reopening of schools discussion. So I am going to turn this over to, I think, Dr. Metzler and Mr. Flynn, and whoever else.
Excellent. All right, we're ready. Mike and I are going to kind of maybe go back and forth a little bit on this, but I just kind of wanted to lead off with first and foremost, in terms of the communication and working on a safe learning plan. I know a lot of places, and I'll give Karen Yasenka and other board members credit, Jim Sweeney and Caitlin and all of you have talked a lot about this. It's a matter of trying to find the best way to provide safe learning and services, to the Hampstead School District. And so some districts have gone out pretty quickly, but most districts are being a little more thoughtful and methodical about going through the process. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But I think the most important thing here is for us to figure out what's the Hampstead model. And, working with Dr. Powers closely, I had a lengthy conversation with him about, trying to make sure that Hampstead matches up to some degree with what Pinkerton's doing, but, they're mutually exclusive of each other in lots of ways, because our K-8 model might look a lot different than his high school that's feeding in from many towns. But so we've been working on this administratively, pretty much right up until our task force meeting yesterday, and we had 50 some odd members of our task force pulling together to come up with exactly that's really the outcome. How do we come up with the safest way to deliver the instruction and services to the students in the fall and what's the plan like looking forward. And an important factor here is, like we talked about, you know, the people in the trenches, the people that are going to be right there with the kids. We have no intention of recommending something to our school board that does not have the endorsement of the people that are actually doing the work. So what does that mean? That means we're negotiating on the front end. This is not a force majeure kind of contractual thing where we're going to tell people what to do. It's more about we're doing this for them, not to them. And actually probably more clearly, we're doing this with them. So I think that's important. And I think last night we were able to get that message out loud and clear to HEA, to HAS, food service, all the people that are directly providing services and instruction to kids, and understanding that our need to be flexible, our need to be, to listen to them all, because everybody's coming from a different place, and try to triangulate that information into a way that we come up with. Again, the final outcome would be the safest way to deliver instruction and services to our kids. So what we did was we met and we did a lot of talking. We had a lengthy agenda, and I'll let Mike jump in here shortly. But we broke into subcommittees. So we have a central school subcommittee, a middle school subcommittee, and a central office subcommittee. We're going to work over the next week or so independently, have several meetings, and then we're going to come together again as a big group next week. Our intention is to have a recommendation for the school board, fully endorsed by the people that are actually delivering instruction and services, for August the 4th. And that was our time frame all along. We were waiting for the governor and the commissioner to provide us the guidelines, and they were they were as helpful as probably predicted, in the sense of, it's about local control, which we appreciate, that every district's going to be able to do whatever they need to do that makes the most sense for them. So that's where we are. I think we're in a really good place. We have a lot of people working on this. The one question is, when are we going to involve the public? Well, the public will be, we have an email set up, so we're taking questions, concerns, thoughts, ideas, and certainly trying to incorporate them into our subcommittee work. But I think after we get together again early next week, then we're going to do something similar to what you're talking about in terms of the reorganization of the central office, something where we'd really like to have the community's endorsement and obviously the union's endorsements before we come to you on August 4th. So that's really the plan. And it's, I know it's an aggressive plan, I know, but we have a committed group, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank them. They gave up another summer night, and we're going to get those emails out like you got earlier today to make sure that everybody feels like they're in the loop right where we are, and that we can, make sure that everybody feels like they know exactly what's going on and why we're doing exactly what we're doing. So Mike, you want to jump in? You want to talk a little bit about last night's agenda, and we can go back and forth if we need to.
Thanks. My point that I wanted to speak to is, people start looking around and see things that are being presented around different districts, and we're all on the same time frame here. And rest assured, I just want to reiterate how much we've done prior to last night's meeting, and that goal was so that we could have more concise work, rather than getting to the table and just flipping through towns around us plans or state plans or things of that nature. We were doing all that groundwork so that when we got to the table last night, it was, all right, here's what this is showing, here's what this data is showing, here's what CDC is recommending, here's what the state's recommending. We provided all the information up front so that when we do break into our smaller task force, it makes the work less overwhelming. I think we're all overwhelmed in a sense, but in order to give some more concise thought and more direction, that was the goal. So I just want to reiterate that we're on target, and we have time. And what's even better is, I say it all the time, being a part of Hampstead now, I'm a year in. There's a lot of doers here, and there's a lot of doers that don't want to stop. So I can certainly say that the doers on this task force are going to get the work done in an outstanding fashion.
Thanks, Mike. And just final word from us, unless you have some questions. What came out. What were some of the things that came out that were really important to folks? And obviously, safety, air quality. So Jeff Mackey's on that. We talked about busing. We talked about food service. We looked at our school calendar. Could we be creative with our school calendar? Those distancing guidelines. Is it blended? Will it be a hybrid? Can we do something every other day? What are the groupings might look like? Is it in every other week? So we're really flushing out all the different possibilities You know, we've named the task force this, you know, the Safe Learning Task Force, really. So it's not a reopening necessarily. It's more about, we just want to make sure that we stay with the strategic plan in Hampstead. You know, you have made it very easy to work here because our budget speaks to the strategic plan. Everything we do speaks to the strategic plan. Safety has always been a big part of the safety plan, the strategic plan, as well as safety. So I think that fits in nicely with our work now, because that's really what we need to do. We need to make sure that that's safe, and we got to make sure it fits in the strategic plan. And obviously, that's going to, you know, it's going to have an impact on the budget, but it's also going to have an impact on technology. So it fits in there nicely, you know. And we spent quite a bit of time privately, and then obviously in the big group, talking about special education and how can we do something for the students that struggle remotely, if remotely is one of the only options. So we're looking at special education in a really special way. I know, you know, I have to say Francine Flynn and her team with ESY, you know, with Karen Gallagher in the planning, we're having a very, very successful summer. So, you know, congratulations and kudos to them. They're really doing a great job. And then obviously the final piece is really just looking at, you know, what's the cost of everything? You know, are there going to be costs? And we want to be smart with our resources. So that was really the agenda we looked at. We sent people off to their subgroups. They're planning their meetings, and we should have another large meeting like early next week. And then we're going to invite the public in for a meeting or two, similar to like your SAU planning, and then come back to the board. So that's really it. We appreciate the support. We certainly appreciate you know, you giving us the opportunity to bring this here tonight, and we look forward to our recommendation at some point for you to consider in several weeks. So that's it, Caitlin.
Okay, are you guys ready for some questions? Because I'm
Absolutely. Yep.
okay. So obviously, I think we were all prepared that there will be a cost to this, and I completely understand that we don't have costs yet. Jeff, this is actually a question for you that I just want to confirm if you're okay with answering a question. I know you have to get taken off me. Okay. So the money, the amount that we retained a month or so ago in our meeting, would this, if we have extra costs, which probably we will, would that money be able to be used to handle some of those costs?
So the amount that you'd be referring to is the fund balance retained, which
Yep.
is the amount of unencumbered fund balance that stays with the school district, that doesn't go back to the town for taxpayer relief. So that amount is could be used for those purposes. Typically, the Department of Ed would be the one to approve such an expenditure, and typically that would occur only really when the budget of the school district is spoken for or run through. So
Okay.
if we really used all of our budget at that point, we could request to be able to use those funds as well.
Okay.
But yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. Okay. I know there are
But
board
Jeff,
members. Oh, yep, go ahead.
well, while we're on that topic, do you know of any state or federal dollars that might be coming our way for reopening schools?
We've already received some, and you know, in terms of remote learning and that sort of thing, I'm not really aware of any additional dollars that would be coming. However, I think it's important to note that it seems apparent to everyone that there are significant costs at this point in order to reopen schools or to do what we're doing well. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see some additional funding come, but I know that the state is not in a great revenue situation as it stands right now, and I'm not certain what would be coming forth from the Department of Education at a federal level, from the federal government, on that either. So at this point, I'm really not aware of anything beyond what we've already seen, but I do know that there is a big demand, an acknowledgement that this whole experience is going to have some expenses associated with it. And I know that there's been calls for additional aid. I'm not aware of any.
Thank you.
I'm kind of guessing we have more questions, but maybe not.
Yeah, Caitlin, I think my question right now is about the schedule for the next few weeks, so that, you know, the teachers, the parents, everybody can understand what we're going to be doing. I don't know if we have a calendar of events available to provide to parents so that they can start to, pay attention more, listen more, ask questions more, and know when those things are happening.
Dr. Metzler, is that something you can speak to?
Yeah, right now we're, like I said, we sent out that communication this morning. We'll continue to update the community. The calendars are pretty much, we're leaving that up to the chairs of the three subcommittee groups, and they've been given their homework to come back to that main group. So, the calendar has not been established yet. It's pretty quick turnaround. You figure today's Wednesday, we're talking by next Tuesday of meeting it, so that we're asking people to meet Thursday, Friday, and Monday, maybe the weekend, I don't know, to get this kind of pulled together. So I'm not sure what that calendar would look like. I'm sure we could put something together, but they're advisory committees. They're not public meetings. So, I'm not quite sure I'm not sure what that calendar would look like.
I'm thinking more, not just in the next few days, but next week, just making sure that that's out there in communication to the public, just clear expectations for everybody.
Yeah, let me do this. I'm just thinking out loud now, right? So if we put together, I can put like a range, like subcommittee date meetings, and then put obviously the whole self-learning task force meeting, anticipated presentation of the board, and then the public meetings. Kind of get a time frame, and I'll put that out in a communication, and Mike and I can get that somehow posted within the next day or so. All right, does that work?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's definitely good. We just want to make sure that the public knows when they should be looking for, like you said, like that kind of like an information session, and then time for them to give feedback. So I think if you guys can get that out in the next day or so, that's great. That works.
Yeah, we'll Mike and I can meet. We'll talk after the meeting tonight and have something out tomorrow, because I think we've committed pretty much to the timeline, and the timeline seems to make sense to.
Yeah.
It's just that we just don't know. It's like there are some questions that can't be answered, and this is not about the timeline. There's just some questions that can't be answered until we provide, what we're doing. Like people are wondering, what percentage of students might come, and that's going to have an impact on our plan. If we plan for X amount of students in a room, but more or less are planning to come, we may have to adjust our plans and those sorts of things. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg and chicken sometimes, like which comes first. So we're trying to be, strategic about the way we go about it. But that timeline is one I think we're committed to. So I picture exactly, I think, what Dave's asking for, and we'll bullet that in some sort of update, and we'll go from there. I think what's also important is we're going to need to lock down whatever we're going to do for that community input. I know we have the email, but if we're going to have one of these nights where we present what we're thinking to the public prior to presenting it to the board, that'll make sense to be in that communication too. So that's a good idea, and I think I know Mike's probably already doing it right now as we speak, right? So we'll be good.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. It just, lets everybody have their input. So I think that works. Thank you. Any other questions or comments or anything else on this from board members? Nobody? I feel like I have to wait longer than in a in-person meeting because I want to make sure everybody speaks up if they have anything.
Yeah, Caitlin, this is David. I think another thing that would be good to hear from the teachers is, we have a lot of concerns for our teachers, their health, and just making sure they're safe, the children are safe. And it'd be good to know also from them, what are some of those things of measurements that they're thinking of from their point of view of when do we ratchet down, when do we ratchet up, when, whatever their plan is, where we feel that, it's going to be and they're going to propose. Also, what are those measurements to go either back full time or down less school, whatever those things are, what are their feelings on that, because I think that's something that a lot of people want to know is when do we go back to normal? I know there's no clear answer right now. I'm not even suggesting there is, but just, what are those things that we have to, consider, not just on day 1, but on day 10, day 20, day 30, as we continue to walk through this. And I know that's an evolution as well, but I think, some of that information would be good to hear from the teachers.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I kind of think putting out there to everybody that we know this is going to be a fluid situation. What is being talked about in the immediate, and Dr. Metzler, I know you, everyone on that task force, and that you've been working on this as well. This is not going to be one answer from now until June. You know, this is an ongoing conversation.
Well, Caitlin, that's a great point. You know, one of the things that came out of last night's meeting, the more we talked about it, because we met as an administrative team following the task force team, and it was like, we're going to need probably a Friday afternoon debriefing weekly. You know, things will change. I mean, you know, people will say, "Whoa, I noticed this," or "I noticed that," or you know, that you should be doing something differently. And as the science, you know, continually tells us different things, we might have to. So it's going to have to be flexible. I know I said that earlier, but I think the important part about it's going to be almost weekly. I mean, we may even have to do, you know, quick daily kind of check-ins at the end of the day, but definitely at the end of the week, you know, what's next week look like moving forward. And I know we're going to ask our parents and our students, obviously, going to need to be, you know, patient and flexible as well as we navigate this, because there are, as you said, there's just so many unknowns. I mean, the science tells us some things now, and we're learning things new every day, every week. So that was really the plan. And I was, you know, obviously Principal Denola and Principal Collins, as well as the rest of the administrative staff were, they're ready. They're ready for that challenge. They've already anticipated that, and you know, they're already being really creative. I think we talked about this. One thing I wish I had said this earlier. One thing, you know, when we did the middle school did the Me in a Minute, and anybody that watched that, that was part of our graduation celebration, if you will. And so I just wanted everybody to understand, our kids, 95% of our kids, maybe even more than that, when they celebrated themselves in a minute, they had a minute to talk about their Hampstead experience. And almost every single one of them either expressed themselves through the arts or athletics. And so we want to be mindful of that as we create whatever we create in terms of self-learning, as we re-enter or start back with school, to make sure that we provide those opportunities, athletics, and that's an additional challenge, you know, but that's one that we need to, because our kids have spoken loud and clear about what's important to them, and so we want to make sure that that's part of what we do. I think some of the easy things that get kind of pushed to the side sometimes, it's you know, it's the whole child piece. So they need to play, they need to socialize, they need to do a whole lot with school. It's not just about reading, writing, and arithmetic. And so I was very excited. Our administrative staff is really ready to do that part too. So I just wanted, if the public's listening, we're going to make sure that we, you know, that's Hampstead. That's what Hampstead's always been. It's why we have 2 specials in the middle school. You know, our kids get a really well-rounded experience here, both socially, academically, athletically, and artistically. So that's going to be part of our safe learning plan for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Metzler. I think that was really well said and an excellent point. Anything else from board members on this, or administrators? Okay. If we're done there, I want to talk a little bit, just for a couple minutes, about and give other board members an opportunity to talk about board comments and correspondence. We have a larger audience than normal tonight, which I think is great, because I think people participating is a benefit to us all. We received a lot of emails this week, much more than normal. We've had conversations with townspeople as well. And I want to acknowledge how much of a change we've had to go through just in a very short amount of time. And I do want to answer some of the most common questions that have come to the board through email around our administrative situation. I do need to start by saying there are questions we can't answer because of non-publics, because of confidentiality. There is information that we have that we cannot share, and that is maybe frustrating to some people, but it is part of having elected officials. We just can't put every single thing out there all the time. However, I think everyone on this board knows that when we are asked questions, we want to give full answers as much as possible. So as I said, I'm going to address a few questions that are kind of the most prevalent. And then obviously give all other board members, if you've received other questions that you feel comfortable answering, we can talk about those as well. I'm going to rephrase this a little bit. Before I answer questions, I'm going to put information out. So as most people know, the Hampstead School District has hired Dr. Metzler as our executive consultant. We have asked him to handle a number of responsibilities, which include the following. We are asking him to provide leadership and direction for the Hampstead School District as it plans for this year for reopening and safe learning. We're asking him to be responsible for preparing our district for a transition from a multi-district SAU to a single district SAU. Regarding that, we're asking him to look into our options for administrative offices where we physically house our SAU staff. We're asking him to look at, and frankly, he's been working on this anyways, but developing an organizational and leadership plan for our school district as it becomes its own SAU, and coordinate what is a lot of information and a lot of duties for what SAU functions look like in the Hampstead School District as we move forward. Dr. Metzler will be directing the work of the executive director and the other administrative staffs in our school district. He's also going to serve as liaison to SAU 55 as it stands now with respect to financial affairs between the SAU and the Hampstead School District, and really anything else that the board tasks him with, within reason. But there were questions about why we needed to do this now. What I can say to that is we are in the middle of a pandemic. We are in the middle of a transition year, which none of us have ever gone through before. As professional as all of our board members try to be, we are not experts on setting up a new SAU or changing dramatically what an SAU looks like. We look to experts. We have always said that we listen to our experts, and we felt that bringing Dr. Metzler in to handle this was the best thing for our district. I know some people would like additional information, but that's what's most important. This board was faced with information that we felt if certain action was to happen, that we would be left without the strong leadership that we needed, and that it would impact negatively our town on several fronts and our education of our students on several fronts. So that said, that was a little bit of a tangent. I apologize. But I wanted to give people that answer. As far as some questions that we have been asked, frankly, a lot of them go back to the SAU and these questions around an interim superintendent. I have been asked what that person's salary may be like. I have been asked who that is. We have been asked what that person is going to do. I can't answer any of those questions for you because Hampstead has not been part of those conversations. If you watched our SAU board meeting last week, we were more than a little blindsided when we were informed that there had been negotiations with someone as an interim superintendent. We had no idea that that was happening. So I would love to answer plenty of things about that person. I can't because I don't have the information. I apologize. I have a list and I'm trying to scan through it while on camera. If anyone else has questions that they've received that they feel comfortable answering, board members, while I scroll through my list here, feel free. I guess not.
You're doing a good job, Caitlin. Keep on
Yeah,
going.
thanks. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jim.
you're on a roll.
Just throw
I'm
me
here
out
for
there,
you.
it's fine. Also,
Moral
around the
support.
SAU stuff, we have an SAU board chair who you could email as well. That person may have more information. I don't have his email address memorized handy. I think it's on the SAU, it should be on the SAU website. He may be able to give you more information. I just don't have it right now. Now I got distracted and I have to go back to my list.
Hey, Caitlin,
Yeah,
Brian Boyle's email address is bjb63052@gmail.com. Again, it's bjb63052@gmail.com for anybody that would like to know what's going on at the SAU level.
perfect. Thank you very much, David. Okay, honestly, a lot of these were, sorry, who was that? Go ahead.
Well, I think it's good to remind people that every step of the way through weighted voting, Hampstead has not had any say at the SAU level. And we needed to protect our district and hire Dr. Metzler as a consultant. So every step of the way through weighted voting, we have not had a say in anything that goes on. So if you have any questions about what's going on at the SAU, ask them. They have not allowed us to participate via weighted voting at all. And thank God we are going to be rid of them come next year. And that's what we should be thinking about. One, thinking about getting kids back to school and figuring out that, and thanking God that we are away from that district. And let's not get hung up on petty things that I see on Facebook or some of the comments and some of the emails that are getting too personal. And let's think about schools, the children, and the staff, and how to safely get through this year. Let's keep our eye on the prize and not get dragged down by petty stuff on Facebook or in emails. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jim.
Have you found your list, Caitlin? If not, I'd like to just chime in for a minute while if you're still looking.
Yeah, I have my list, but really most of it was about the interim side and then, you know, what exactly Dr. Metzler was going to be doing. And I think I answered that with his list of duties. But sure, go ahead, Karen.
No, I'd just like to pick up a little where Jim left off. I agree with everything he said. And I just want to go back to the emails. We did have a little bit, we had more this time than we usually have. The board actually, I think we received 16 or 17 individual emails. But after looking at them closely, I just wanted to point out that half a dozen or so are from members of the same family echoing the same concerns. And then 4 or 5 of them are from former employees. And overall, some were critical of the process that we use to make our decision and a lack of transparency on the part of the entire board. On the other hand, it's obvious that some people were legitimately seeking information about the terms of the contract, while others, in my opinion, I feel really crossed the line as to what is considered acceptable content in a professional communication. I feel that some really crossed the line of decency and civility. And I think it's unfortunate that some adults in Hampstead are unable to draft or craft an email that can clearly articulate their viewpoint without resorting to name calling, making unsubstantiated allegations, and character assassinations. So to people who write emails in the future, I'd just like to say, if your only purpose is to vent, that's fine. But if you really expect the board to take action, It's incumbent upon you to provide details, specifics, to support your assertions. Otherwise, we really can't do anything to help you or to get to the bottom of your issues. And also, I just like to remind the people that except as provided for by law, correspondence to a majority of the board constitutes a public document, and a public document can be shared. Moving forward, just keep that in mind. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And Jim, sorry, I don't think I said thank you to Jim. I think that's most of the questions that I had documented as being common questions. That doesn't mean it's every question we received. And I have tried to respond to every email that we received. If I haven't gotten to you yet, I think I have maybe 1 or 2 still pending, and some of them are because I need to confirm what I can say and what I can't say. And, you know, we are, so anyways, we're working to respond to everybody. We do try to respond to everybody. I will echo what Karen said. If you're writing to just throw insults, then I'll probably still respond politely because that is what we do. But
You do.
what?
So that's what you do, Caitlin. God bless you.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, Megan, go ahead.
Hi. So something of sentiment along the same lines. I guess I want to, while it's hard, I want to express my appreciation for everyone's concerns, thoughts, and feedback. Unfortunately, the majority of the correspondence did take place through email and social media. I do feel that these conversations would have been nice to have face-to-face. And I do believe that they would have been handled a little bit different and perhaps maybe more mindfully. The responses have been overwhelming, as Caitlin and Jim and Karen have mentioned. And I just remind myself it's that way because we have a lot of people in town that care about something: children, teachers, their taxes, property value. We all care. And I can't speak for the other board members, but I don't think I'm only speaking for myself, that we care too. And that's why we're here on the board, to support everyone in the community. We'll never please everyone, but I hope everyone can try to understand that our intention as a school board is not one of detriment to Hampstead. We all live in the town. We're taxpayers. We have kids that go to school here, grandchildren. We're your friends and family. The decisions that we make on this board don't only impact you, they impact us as well. And I guess I'm going to sound a little cliche, and maybe as though I'm simplifying matters, but I do think we tend to complicate things in general. We've all heard of the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. Think before you speak, think before you act. It's not hard. We want your input. We respect your input. So just do it in a respectful manner. With everything that's been thrown at us over the last couple months, everything, I've been on the board for just a few months and I feel like I've been here for years. We're trying to make the best decisions for the community. As mentioned, there's been a lot of accusations thrown our way, and you're all entitled to those thoughts and opinions. And it's all very eye-opening. It's nice to know people care and how you're feeling. But we're here in a community to support each other, and to support one another doesn't mean we all have to agree. The 5 members on this board don't always agree with one another, but we respect each other and we support. So I task myself to think and act respectfully. I know my fellow board members will, and I task the rest of the community to just think before you act. We should not be complicating things that are already so very complicated. Lots of change going on, and we just need to help each other out. And that was from my heart.
Thank you, Megan. That was very well said. Very well said.
So I'm going to give you guys the last one talk, and just to say, just on top of all that, it's impressive that we have over 60, we had over 70 people on this call to listen to what I believe is mostly about what's going on with COVID-19. However, you've heard there's a lot of change going on this year. You've heard that there's a lot of planning going on this year. More than ever, we need the town to be together. That doesn't mean we all agree. It means that we need to be there and listen to each other and just be part of this. So I really hope this isn't the last time we see 60 people. I'm hoping next time we have 80, 90, 100 people to know what's going on and be informed. The best way you can do it is, you know, we hear a lot from different people, some that are not informed, some that just haven't paid attention to all of the information out there. And I know there's a lot of information, but I also know every board member here will answer a phone call, answer an email. I've even had people I've met up with because they just want to say, what's going on? I had somebody say, can you explain what this SAU withdrawal thing is? I'll drop of a hat. I'll reply to the email, I'll phone call, and I know the other board members will also. So I'd ask if there's anything that you don't understand, if there's anything that you want further information about, ask. Our emails are here. To have somebody called out on social media when you could have asked the question, I think that you'd want that to be done to you, so do that to us, as Megan said, do unto others. So just please respect everybody with the correspondence, but reach out, ask, be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, David. If we have anything else, speak up. Otherwise, I have to ask for a non-public. Okay, I'm seeing nobody speak up. So I would like to have a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, section 2L, legal. Melissa, or do I have anyone to make the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, Melissa, will you call the roll? I'm sorry.
She's on mute.
I know. I'm just waiting for her to come
Yep.
off.
1 second.
We know, Mike. It's all right. You're doing multiple things here.
There you go, Melissa.
Thank you, Mike. Ms. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Ms. Jusenka.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay. We are not making any decisions in non-public, so if people want to stick around, they can. We're pretty much just going to come out and adjourn. So you can hang out if you want. Thank you.
You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Okay, it is 9:04. We are out of non-public. And unless there's any other business any board members have to bring forward, we are, oh wait, I'll give you a second. Anyone have anything else to bring forward? No, okay. Then I will adjourn this meeting at 9:04.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
All right.
You.
Night.